Universus is a card game that is formatted like a fighting game where two players will face off with decks built around their chosen characters respectively. Your goal is to bring your opponent's health to 0. You would use attacks, blocks, and other abilities to not only achieve this goal, but also to defend yourself. You can't just pay for these cards for free though. All cards will have a difficulty value, which can be seen at the top left corner of the card. The way you check a card into play is to discard the top card of your deck to see if that card's check value is greater than the required difficulty of the card you're trying to play. This fundamental concept controls the entire flow of the game. Your deck can be built from a wide pool of differing characters, with your character card staying on the battlefield for the entirety of the game. The number inside the card-shaped box is your hand size. You draw up to this number at the beginning of your turn. If you are going first, you may choose to mulligan your entire hand if you do not like your starting hand. Retrospectively, if you are going second, you can choose what cards you would like to mulligan, then draw up to your hand size again before drawing an extra card for going second. The number listed in the heart symbol is your health. If this number ever reaches 0, you will lose the game. The symbols at the bottom of your character will define how to build your deck. This means that every card in your deck needs to share the symbol of the symbol that you chose. There is an exception to this with attuned cards. You will know if a card is attuned due to the symbol of the card being a square instead of the traditional circle. Attuned cards are cards that can be played in a deck as long as they share one of the symbols with your character. Your character has abilities that affect your attacks, defense, or setup turns. These can be written as enhances, responses, or forms. Learn these well because your entire deck will revolve around them.
In Universes, there are 5 main card types: attacks, foundations, assets, actions, and backups. The first card type we're going to be talking about is attacks. Attacks are used to deal damage. Each attack has a speed and a damage value. Speed mitigates how hard it is to block, while damage is pretty self-explanatory. That's how much health they're going to be losing if they take the attack. Next up is foundations. Foundations are the basic fundamentals of this game. You can think of them as like lands for Magic. Whenever you make a check to play a card, if the value does not equal the difficulty, you can commit foundations to make the check value go up by 1 for each foundation you commit. That's how you keep on playing more cards and defend or play an attack or play more foundations during the game. Foundations will stay in play and ready again at the beginning of your turn. And a good tip would be to build several early on your first turn in order to have more control later. After that is assets. Assets are very similar to foundations, but you cannot commit them to past checks. Typically, they have an overpowered ability that can help you during the game. They usually act as a powerful tool that can turn the tide of the game. After assets is backups. Backups, also just like assets, cannot be committed to pay for checks, but instead they come with a different type of ability to assets. When you build them into your stage, they have stamina. Stamina is how much health they have, and when your opponent wants to target your character, they can also choose to target your backup instead, in order to deal damage equal to whatever the stamina is. If the stamina reaches 0, the backup gets put into the discard pile. Finally, there's actions. In my opinion, I think this is the most complicated card type in the game. But essentially, it's like you're playing an ability that you would play from a card in your stage, but from your hand instead. When you play it, you have to check it in as well, equal to whatever its difficulty is. Actions will have one-time abilities that you can use in the moment, or to maybe counter one of your opponent's effects, but your opponent won't see it coming because it's in your hand and it isn't revealed to your opponent yet in the game.
Every card has a difficulty in the top left corner. When you play a card, you discard the top card of your deck and check its control value in the bottom right corner. If the control is equal to or higher than the difficulty, that card succeeds. If lower, you can use foundations and commit them to help pay for your check. If you can't, then your cards fail and go to the discard pile and your turn will end. Progressive difficulty is a special mechanic made to create longer-lasting games and promote more critical thinking in gameplay. Long attack chains are more difficult to string out as more cards are added to your card pool. Each card you play increases the difficulty of the next card you could play by 1. For example, if there are 2 cards in my card pool and I want to play a 1 difficulty foundation after the previous 2 cards have resolved, I would add 2 to my check of 1, turning what I need to check into a 3. A turn in Universus consists of 4 main phases: the ready phase, the draw phase, the combat phase, and the end phase. During the ready phase, you uncommit all of your cards, which includes your foundations, backups, assets, and of course, your character. Then you move to the draw phase, where you are allowed to review up to 1 card, which is to discard it from your hand and draw 1 extra, which you then follow up by drawing up to your character's hand size. During the combat phase, you play forms such as attacks, foundations, actions, assets, or backups, with each card getting +1 to its progressive difficulty respectively as you play more cards in your card pool. The turn will usually end when you fail a check or choose to stop. Then finally, during the end phase, your turn ends and any end of turn effects would trigger.
When you play an attack, you and your opponent will take turns chaining enhances until enhances are mutually done before moving on to the block step. To block, they play a card from their hand face up in their card pool and match the block zone to the current attack's zone. To fully block the attack, you have to match with the corresponding zone, but if you can't, then you may block with an adjacent zone and take half of the attack's damage. To successfully block an attack, the opponent would have to combine the block modifier of the card they played to the attack speed. For example, if the speed of the attack is 2 and the block modifier is 3, then they would need to check a 5 to successfully block the attack. If the attack hits, it deals its damage and the attacker may move it to their momentum.
Momentum is a strong resource with many diverse uses. When your attack hits, you may place the resolved attack face down in your momentum area, which is under your character, unless stated otherwise when it resolves. You can spend momentum for abilities like Powerful X or EXX, as well as other types of abilities that maybe revolve around saving your momentum or the character you're playing. Managing momentum separates strong players from beginners. Knowing when to spend or save it can greatly change how your deck performs. Abilities are another crucial part of the game. Here are the abilities you'll need to remember. Enhances are abilities you use during the enhance step of an attack. Both players take turns using 1 enhance at a time. Once both players pass on their enhances, you move on to the block step. Responses trigger when their conditions are met. For an example, if you response commit after you block, you draw 1 card. They happen automatically when triggered if the player chooses to use them. Next is blitzes. Blitzes are effects that happen instantaneously when you play the attack. It is important to remember that blitzes come after the response step of your attack. Blitzes can only be found on attacks. Attacks with abilities usually follow the trend of responses first, then blitzes, and finally enhances. Although this is the common pattern, responses will always trigger when the required conditions are met. Similar to how you can pay for checks by committing foundations, there are certain abilities that let you pay a cost to trigger a special ability in a different way. These are called costs. Some examples are flipping foundations, sacrificing or destroying foundations, and even removing foundations from the game entirely. Some of these costs appear on characters, assets, and backups as well. Keyword abilities act as a subtype of abilities that can enhance your card. This isn't a complete list of all the keyword abilities, but they are the most common ones you will see. In the description, we will link the UVS Rulebook with all the other keywords and keyword abilities if there are ones you do not recognize. Stun. Commit your opponent's foundations equal to the rating of stun. For example, stun 2 makes your opponent commit 2 cards. Powerful. Give damage equal to the powerful rating and multiply that number by how much momentum you spent for it. For example, you spend 2 momentum for a powerful 3 ability. 2 times 3 equals 6, giving your attack 6 damage. EX. Give speed equal to the EX rating and multiply that number by how much momentum you spent for it. You use the same principle from powerful, but instead of damage, you give it to speed. Throw. Always deal partial damage, even if blocked. It's basically trample from magic. Flash. Skip the enhanced step for both players. And Breaker. Increases the next check of the card you have to play equal to its rating. For example, if your opponent sends an attack and you use a card with Breaker 2 to block, you add -2 to your opponent's next check, making it harder for them to pass it on their turn. Each keyword ability has a specific timing and cost. Knowing these interactions make you faster and more efficient.
In Universes, there's two ways to win the game. One is by making your opponent's health equal 0, or by making your opponent deck out. Putting your opponent's health to 0 is self-explanatory. In order to deal damage to their character, you have to play attacks, and the damage dealt equals how much health they lose. When they deck out, they have to perform a cycle. That's when they take whatever cards are left in their discard pile, shuffle it, and then remove the top 10 from the game. If they cannot complete a cycle, they lose the game.
These are some common mistakes made by beginners playing Universes. 1. Playing too many attacks without building foundations. If you leave yourself without enough resources after a push, it only leaves you more vulnerable on your opponent's turn. 2. Forgetting to check card symbols during deck construction. It's crucial to be careful about deck building, so make sure the deck you're playing revolves around one symbol, excluding attuned cards, of course. And 3. Using enhances in the wrong order. Stringing enhances can be game-ending, so knowing which ones to play first and last will change the game drastically.
Universes rewards planning and timing. You must balance attack pressure with resource building. Good players know when to push and when to hold back. Learn your character, read your opponent, and practice piloting your deck until the rhythm feels natural. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Combat Power Gaming, for any TCG accessories or TCG needs.